Nobody expected it to flip that fast. One word, one small inflection, one almost imperceptible shift in tone, and suddenly everything changed. What began as casual banter, a normal back and forth between two personalities used to performing in front of millions, morphed into something far larger than anyone could have anticipated, all in less than 30 seconds. If you were watching that live stream in real time, you didn't need a commentator or a headline to tell you something had shifted. You felt it immediately. The energy in the room tightened. The laughter, once light, grew clipped. Pauses stretched just a fraction longer than they normally would, and in those slight extensions of time, tension accumulated. And just like that, what had seemed like another unpredictable crossover between Blueface and Adin transformed into a viral moment the internet couldn't stop talking about. What made it different wasn't volume. There was no shouting, no dramatic walk-off, no chaos the way social media usually rewards it. It was quieter than that, and that quiet is what made it hit harder. Because sometimes, tension that is understated carries more weight than any loud spectacle ever could. And all of it hinged on one phrase: brand risk. It didn't arrive with aggression. It wasn't shouted, emphasized, or highlighted. Blueface dropped it casually, almost as if it were a throwaway comment. But casual in delivery didn't mean harmless. He leaned back, smirked slightly, and let the words linger just long enough for everyone watching to process them. And in that fleeting, almost imperceptible moment, you could see the internet reacting in real time. Some interpreted it as a joke. Others sensed something deeper. Was it playful? A subtle jab? A critique of streaming culture? Or something more personal, something hidden behind humor? Adin laughed, but it was a controlled laugh, not the kind that dissolves tension or signals ease. Anyone familiar with live stream dynamics recognizes that response immediately. It's the laugh of someone processing, calculating, and deciding in real time how to respond without escalating the moment. Because when you're live, there's no rewind button. Every expression, every reaction becomes part of the record. Every pause, every glance is permanent. And the controlled nature of that laugh told the audience more than words ever could. That's what makes interactions like this so unpredictable. Both Blueface and Adin understand virality at a fundamental level. They know how narratives form and how quickly a moment can spin out of control. They understand that a single line, delivered at the right time, can grow exponentially, turning casual commentary into trending content, driving conversation across multiple platforms simultaneously. And in that moment, neither moved to contain it. There was no clarification, no immediate reassurance. No "we're fine" to calm tensions. No post to frame it as a joke, just silence. And in internet culture, silence is never neutral. Silence is strategy. Silence invites speculation, fuels debate, and ensures that the moment will be dissected repeatedly. Within hours, brand risk had escaped the confines of the stream. It wasn't just a phrase anymore. It became a trending topic, a subject of debate, a symbol of something larger than the moment itself. When someone like Blueface, whose public persona thrives on unpredictability, labels something as a risk, and someone like Adin, whose brand is built on controlled chaos, doesn't immediately deflect it, people start reading between the lines. The narrative begins to shift, and the audience becomes a participant in its construction. Questions multiplied almost instantly. Was this the first crack in their collaboration? Had there been underlying tension all along, waiting for the right moment to surface? Was this calculated for views, a subtle orchestration designed to provoke engagement? Or was it genuine, something unscripted that slipped out unexpectedly? And perhaps the most intriguing question: what happened off camera? Because in today's ecosystem of content, what isn't shown is often just as powerful as what is. Moments like these do not remain contained. They expand. Reaction channels pick them apart frame by frame. Fanbases take sides, dissecting every facial expression, every micro-gesture. Clips from past streams and collaborations resurface, reinterpreted through the lens of the present. A passing comment from months ago suddenly becomes relevant. Context is reconstructed in real time. What may have seemed trivial initially is now a defining moment, loaded with implication. It is no longer about what was said, it is about what it might mean. To understand why those two words carried so much weight, you have to consider the people involved. This wasn't a random interaction between unknowns. Both participants are masters of influence in their respective domains. Blueface has built his identity on disruption and unpredictability. From his unconventional flow to his eccentric public persona, chaos is part of his brand. For him, attention isn't accidental, it's leverage. Every viral clip, every heated exchange, every controversial line contributes to a carefully maintained narrative of disruption. Adin, on the other hand, has mastered the art of live engagement. His platform thrives on the immediacy of audience reaction. He constructs environments where anything can happen, where conversations feel raw and unscripted, where spontaneity is a key driver of engagement. His audience is not passive. They react, comment, and participate in real time, creating feedback loops that amplify every nuance. Live moments, particularly uncomfortable ones, are where Adin thrives because ambiguity drives attention. When these two worlds intersect, a silent negotiation unfolds. The rapper brings cultural relevance, the streamer brings direct access to a massive, engaged audience. Both benefit from the collaboration, but the power dynamic is not always equal. There's always an unspoken question: who actually needs whom more? That question underlies every subtle glance, every carefully timed laugh, every pause between lines. And that is why the phrase brand risk resonates beyond its surface meaning. For some observers, being labeled a risk is almost a compliment. It implies authenticity, unpredictability, and a refusal to conform. It signals a personality that doesn't follow rules, a figure who thrives in chaos. But from another perspective, particularly in the world of professional streaming, risk has a more concrete implication. It can denote potential liabilities, threats to partnerships, or jeopardy to platform stability. The term is loaded, situational, and consequential. That divergence in interpretation magnified the impact. Blueface may have delivered the phrase lightly, unaware of its weight in the streaming ecosystem. Adin, whose operation depends on careful management of sponsorships, platform trust, and audience perception, instantly recognized the implications. And that is why his response, so controlled, so measured, was significant. It wasn't uncertainty, it was calculation. The internet, of course, amplified everything. Clips spread across platforms within minutes. Replays slowed down. Analysts paused on micro-expressions. Every nuance of the shift was highlighted and debated. Some insisted it was nothing, just entertainment, just another moment of viral content. Others saw layers, reading tension and implication into every movement. Because neither participant clarified immediately, both interpretations gained traction simultaneously. The gray area between intent and perception expanded, becoming a playground for speculation. Moments like these thrive in ambiguity. They live between what is said and how it is heard, between intention and perception. Once an audience this large becomes involved, interpretations proliferate. They attach context from past moments, existing narratives, and broader cultural trends. The comment is no longer isolated. It becomes part of a larger web of meaning, linked to history, personality, and public persona. And that is where things get complex. This isn't just about a live stream. It's about history, influence, and power dynamics. Past collaborations, rivalries, and interactions are retroactively analyzed. Patterns are inferred. Every subtle cue is read as evidence of a larger truth. At a certain point, the moment ceases to be about what occurred in real time. It becomes about what people believe happened. In the digital age, perception often wields more influence than reality. Now the questions multiply. Was the tension staged? If so, it was executed with precision, just enough ambiguity to spark debate, enough subtlety to provoke analysis without clear resolution. If it wasn't staged, it revealed something more genuine, an underlying tension that had never been fully visible until that instant. Either way, the effect is the same. The narrative has shifted irreversibly. Once the internet begins picking sides, stories escalate rather than settle. Every reaction adds another layer. Every analysis, whether serious or satirical, contributes to the evolving conversation. What started as one throwaway comment has grown into a defining moment, a pivot around which perception, speculation, and debate orbit. This moment is now a turning point, not merely in the stream, but in the larger cultural context surrounding these two figures. It affects relationships, collaborations, and public perception. Whether it was intentional or unintentional, the phrase brand risk has reframed how audiences understand the dynamic between Blueface and Adin Ross. And the most intriguing part, we still don't have a definitive answer. Was it a joke misinterpreted, a subtle jab that went further than intended, or a rare glimpse into unspoken tension between two influential personalities? Whatever the case, once that subtle shift occurs, the pause, the tone, the unspoken acknowledgement, you can't unsee it. The moment invites scrutiny, replay, and analysis. It becomes a reference point, a viral artifact that circulates endlessly. And the quieter the moment, the more it lingers. Because sometimes the loudest, most dramatic moments aren't the ones that stick. It's the subtle ones. The pauses, the shifts, the understated signals that change how people perceive everything around them. And this quiet, almost imperceptible moment is a perfect example of that. The lesson here isn't about who was right or wrong. It's about influence, perception, and the weight of words in real time. In the digital age, a single phrase can alter relationships, redefine narratives, and spark debates that last far longer than any live stream itself. And right now, the moment is still unfolding. It is a reminder that in a world obsessed with immediacy, virality, and attention, the quietest moments often carry the heaviest consequences. The ones that, in the blink of an eye, leave a lasting impression. And this is one of those moments. The discussion exploded. Threads grew like wildfire, replies stacking upon replies. Memes were born within minutes. Brand risk became shorthand for everything from overthinking a joke to questioning the nature of influence. Every reaction, from casual viewers to content creators, added another layer. Analysts speculated about intent, fans argued about loyalty, and casual observers were drawn in simply because they didn't want to miss what had become an unfolding story. But it wasn't just the audience reacting. It was the ecosystem of influence itself that amplified the moment. Reaction channels dissected every millisecond, looking for micro-expressions, changes in posture, even slight shifts in breathing. They debated whether the pause in Adin Ross's laugh indicated calculation, irritation, or surprise. Blueface's smirk was analyzed as either playful mischief or strategic dominance. And while each interpretation might have been subjective, the sheer volume of analysis made the moment feel undeniable, cementing it as a cultural touchpoint. What made it even more fascinating was the subtlety. There was no shouting, no wild gestures, no overt confrontation. Everything relied on micro-tension, the kind that only someone deeply familiar with live streaming or celebrity behavior could parse fully. The room didn't erupt, the internet did. And in that difference lies the core of modern virality. The live audience may not react explosively, but the digital audience reacts exponentially. Every clip is rewatched, every nuance highlighted, every subtle shift in tone amplified 100-fold. Within hours, the moment became a case study in digital influence. Brand risk was dissected across platforms. TikTok edits slowed the interaction frame by frame. Twitter threads debated intent, perception, and past behaviors. YouTube channels turned 30 seconds of live stream into 20-minute breakdowns. And each new interpretation, each replay created additional pressure. Because unlike traditional media, where edits and retractions are possible, live streaming leaves nothing to edit. Every glance, every pause, every half-smile becomes permanent evidence. Meanwhile, Blueface leaned into the momentum. He didn't post an explanation or try to clarify. Instead, he hinted at the broader context. Some platforms thrive on drama, others on numbers. The comment was almost casual, but contextually it carried enormous weight. It wasn't an attack, it wasn't a defense. It was a signal that he understood the ecosystem, that he knew how narratives could spiral, and that he wasn't afraid to let the narrative grow organically. Adin responded in kind, but in a fundamentally different way. "I don't need chaos, the numbers speak." A simple statement, but loaded with implication. It wasn't a rebuttal, it wasn't a challenge, it was a declaration of methodical power. Where Blueface relied on unpredictability, Adin relied on structure. One thrives in chaos, the other masters control. And with that single line, the balance shifted subtly yet undeniably. Then came the next layer. Blueface called Adin sensitive, a small jab with strategic implications. In a live environment, words like this are heavy. They redirect perception, imply weakness, suggest overreaction. The chat erupted, of course, and fan theories multiplied. Was this playful trolling, subtle escalation, or something more? It didn't matter. The tension grew regardless. Adin's response was the pinnacle of restraint. He didn't escalate. He didn't shout. He leaned forward and said, "Careful who you label." A quiet but potent reminder that influence is relational. Words carry consequences. And millions were watching, silently acknowledging that power plays were unfolding in real time. The tension peaked not through spectacle, but through calculation, control, and subtle dominance. Then the stream ended, not abruptly, not dramatically, just ended. And in that ending, the narrative truly began. Without clarification, without context, the moment was left open-ended. And in the digital ecosystem, open-ended moments are currency. They invite speculation. They encourage debate. They keep audiences engaged indefinitely. Within hours, the clip had traveled across every major platform. TikTok edits highlighted the precise second the energy shifted. Twitter threads broke down every word, every facial expression, every glance. YouTube reaction channels treated 30 seconds of content like an academic case study, turning it into analysis that spanned 20 minutes. The story wasn't just alive, it was evolving in real time. Then came the twist. Adin quietly unfollowed Blueface. No post, no announcement, no explanation, just a subtle digital gesture. And yet in the world of online culture, that action resonated louder than any words. Unfollows are signals, and perception moves faster than reality online. The internet exploded. Fans dissected motives. Analysts speculated strategy. Suddenly, the small exchange on stream wasn't a moment. It was the spark for a full-blown narrative about power, influence, and loyalty. Old content resurfaced. Clips of previous collaborations, teasing, and offhand jokes were recontextualized. Past humor was now foreshadowing. Every subtle interaction became evidence in a story that no one could fully confirm. And as the narrative expanded, the conversation shifted from tension to leverage. Who benefits from these interactions? Who holds power? Who needs whom more? A cryptic tweet from a mutual associate added fuel. Funny how people forget who benefits most from these collabs. No names, no context, but it didn't need them. Suddenly, fans weren't just debating the moment. They were debating the structural power dynamic. Was Blueface leveraging Adin's platform, or was Adin leveraging Blueface's cultural relevance? The narrative now encompassed strategy, influence, and digital currency, all emerging from a single phrase, a controlled laugh, and a quiet unfollow. As the days unfolded, nothing clarified. No side statements, no interviews, just growing speculation. And that silence added weight, because in internet culture, silence is not neutrality, it is fertile ground for interpretation. Every guess, every theory, every fan reaction expanded the story. The digital ecosystem filled the gaps with context, narrative, and meaning, turning the live moment into a story with multiple chapters before a second clip even surfaced. The most compelling aspect of the situation is how it illuminates contrasting approaches to influence. Blueface thrives in chaos. His unpredictability, his willingness to disrupt, his knack for creating moments that feel raw and unfiltered, this is his currency. Adin Ross, by contrast, operates in a structured environment. He may appear chaotic, but behind the content lies careful calculation, platform rules, sponsor expectations, audience psychology. When those two approaches collide, the collision itself becomes content. A single phrase, brand risk, becomes a lens to explore the interplay between spontaneity and control. And the ambiguity is what makes the moment viral. Some viewers interpreted brand risk as a compliment, a badge of authenticity, a sign that Blueface valued unpredictability. Others saw it as a critique, a subtle accusation that could threaten partnerships, audience trust, or platform stability. The duality of interpretation is what gives the moment gravity. It's more than a phrase, it's a reflection of strategy, personality, and influence. As the weeks passed, speculation only intensified. Fans debated possible motives, rewatched clips obsessively, and cross-referenced other content for hidden signals. Analysts attempted to decode body language, vocal inflection, and timing. And through all of this, the silence from the protagonists persisted. No clarification, no defense, no reassurance. Just the lingering power of ambiguity. The result is a moment that continues to evolve. It is studied, dissected, and debated daily. Every interaction is potentially evidence. Every past collaboration is reinterpreted. The narrative isn't static, it grows with every share, every clip, and every discussion. And in the digital world, growth is influence. This isn't just about two personalities clashing in real time. It's about how influence works in the modern age. A single word delivered at the right time can reshape perception, reframe relationships, and recalibrate the balance of power. Silence, subtlety, and timing are tools as potent as volume and spectacle, and in this moment, they were used to devastating effect. So now people are watching for what comes next. Will there be reconciliation, confrontation, or continued tension? Will the narrative be controlled, or will it continue to evolve unpredictably? Every subsequent interactio will be read through the lens of that single stream, that quiet exchange, and the digital world will continue to weigh every word, every gesture, and every decision. Because ultimately, this is not just about a phrase. It's about influence, strategy, and the modern ecosystem of attention. Brand risk wasn't just a comment, it was a spark. And in the age of virality, sparks become infernos. The moment endures, the speculation persists, and the story is far from over. Nobody expected the energy between Blueface and Adin Ross to flip so sharply. Yet once it did, there was no reversing it. What began as a seemingly casual, even playful interaction on a live stream quickly evolved into a moment that didn't just exist on the screen. It multiplied, reverberated, and morphed into something far larger than anyone watching in real time could have predicted. The trigger, a simple, offhand phrase, brand risk. But in the hands of two personalities who understood the mechanics of influence, that phrase became more than words. It became a signal, a pivot, a quiet explosion that rippled through streaming culture, hip-hop culture, and the broader digital ecosystem. The shift wasn't loud, it wasn't explosive. There were no raised voices, no dramatic gestures, no walk-off moments that would typically characterize conflict. Instead, it was subtle, surgical, and in its subtlety lay its power. Blueface leaned back in his chair, smirk curling just slightly, delivering the line with a timing that suggested casualness but carried weight. For viewers familiar with streaming dynamics, it was immediately clear. This was a moment charged with tension, not noise. On the other side, Adin Ross reacted with a measured, controlled response. His usual high-energy laugh, the one that clears tension in a heartbeat, was absent. Instead, he smiled, tight, precise, and exhaled a laugh that was quiet, almost restrained. It wasn't an expression of carefree amusement, but one of processing, evaluating, and calculating the next move. To anyone familiar with live stream culture, that kind of controlled laugh signals awareness. It signals that the person understands what just happened and knows how to respond without letting the energy spiral out of control. And the audience noticed, instantly. Within seconds, the chat transitioned from passive engagement to intense analysis. Viewers were no longer simply observing, they were dissecting every nuance, every micro-expression, every pause. Comments poured in. Is this playful? Is he trolling? Is there tension? A segment of the audience dismissed it as content, just another unpredictable interaction designed to entertain. Another segment felt something deeper, a subtle interplay that suggested strategy, leverage, or even underlying friction. And what made it even more potent was what didn't happen next. No immediate clarification, no casual laughter to reset the moment, no, it's all jokes to soothe the audience. There was silence. And in internet culture, silence is never empty. Silence is strategy. That silence allowed the moment to grow organically. Clips began circulating almost immediately. TikTok users slowed down the interaction frame by frame. YouTube channels uploaded commentary dissecting eye contact, posture, and the subtlest tonal inflections. Twitter threads mapped every reaction, comparing this moment to previous streams, past jokes, and earlier collaborations. What could have been a passing quip transformed into a full-blown digital case study on power, control, and influence. Blueface didn't ease the tension either. He stayed quiet, but his actions spoke volumes. Studio clips surfaced on social media, short bursts of music and production, suggesting confidence and focus. He wasn't reacting emotionally, he was positioning. In the world of influence, positioning is often more potent than confrontation. Every post, every clip, every seemingly casual gesture communicated dominance without saying it outright. Adin, meanwhile, returned to his streams, carefully avoiding direct acknowledgement of the original moment. His energy remained high, but there was a noticeable control, a subtle shift in tone that suggested awareness of the situation. He didn't react impulsively. He didn't call out Blueface or attempt to assert dominance. Instead, he continued to operate within the structure of his platform, signaling control of narrative and environment. This wasn't chaos, it was positioning. And positioning, especially in the digital age, is more influential than any loud argument could ever be. The phrase brand risk became a point of fascination. On the surface, it might have seemed minor, a throwaway comment, but in the context of streaming and rap culture, it carried layered meaning. For Blueface, a figure whose public persona thrives on unpredictability and disruption, it could be interpreted as a badge of authenticity. Embracing risk aligns with his chaotic, rule-defying brand. For Adin, whose platform operates within tighter constraints, sponsor relationships, platform rules, and audience expectations, the phrase carries weight differently. It suggests potential liability, the fragility of public perception, and the responsibilities inherent in holding an audience's attention live. One word, interpreted differently, became the lens through which millions analyzed an entire ecosystem. Then came another defining moment that pushed the narrative further. During a late-night stream, Adin read aloud a donation question. "Are you cutting Blueface off?" The room paused again, subtly but perceptibly. And then Adin responded with a calm, deliberate line. "I don't cut people off, I just adjust." That single word, adjust, carried enormous weight. It didn't suggest conflict, it didn't suggest separation. It suggested recalibration. A subtle shift behind the scenes, a recognition that dynamics had changed, even if nothing had been publicly acknowledged. To a live stream audience attuned to reading nuance, that word signaled more than a comment. It was insight into power, boundaries, and strategy. At this stage, the audience wasn't merely witnessing a single exchange. They were observing a transformation. The moment had evolved from casual banter to a public study of influence and hierarchy. Two personalities with high digital value were negotiating space, asserting control and protecting boundaries, all in real time, all under the scrutiny of millions. It was a quiet power struggle, but its implications were clear. The balance between them wasn't static, and the digital audience felt every subtle shift. Fans noticed immediately. The conversation didn't die after 24 hours, it intensified. Hashtags continued to trend. Clips resurfaced with commentary highlighting subtle facial expressions, posture adjustments, and tone changes. Every slight gesture became evidence. Every micro-movement suggested intent. In digital culture, moments like this rarely return to equilibrium once they've been exposed publicly. By the 48-hour mark, the narrative had evolved yet again. What started as a viral clip transformed into momentum. Fans moved from passive observation to taking sides, framing their interpretation around personal biases, cultural lenses, and subcultural loyalties. Blueface supporters emphasized authenticity. They framed his comment as bold, honest, and unfiltered, a reflection of his identity within hip-hop culture, where bluntness and fearlessness are celebrated. To them, the moment wasn't disrespectful, it was strength. Adin Ross supporters saw it differently. They highlighted the implicit hierarchy of platform dynamics, arguing that while streaming culture allows spontaneity, there are boundaries and respect for space, particularly when a guest is involved. In their view, the moment wasn't casual, it was dismissive, a subtle undermining of the host's authority. Thus, the interpretation of the exact same clip diverged into competing narratives, each reinforced by context, culture, and perception. The escalation didn't come directly from Blueface or Adin. Instead, it emerged from the audience, content creators, and industry voices. Reaction channels uploaded breakdowns with dramatic titles. Creators analyzed tone, posture, and micro-expressions. Some insisted Blueface controlled the moment. Others argued Adin maintained authority through measured responses. Two different realities were constructed from the same 30-second clip. External voices amplified the tension. Streamers tweeted about respecting hosts. Rappers posted cryptic commentary about sensitivity. Names were not mentioned, but timing provided context. Suddenly, the debate wasn't just about individuals. It was a clash of cultures. The structure-driven, sponsorship-conscious world of live streaming versus the raw, chaotic, authenticity-driven world of hip-hop. These systems operate under different rules, which created friction not from conflict, but from differing expectations. Another subtle layer appeared when Adin hosted a subsequent stream with a different guest. The energy was smoother, lighter, more controlled. Clips of this stream began circulating with captions drawing comparisons. Social media users quickly noticed the difference, and comparisons foster hierarchy. Hierarchy, in turn, creates pressure. Blueface posted a studio clip referencing risk briefly before deleting it. Screenshots, however, were already in circulation. Risk was now more than a word, it was an identity marker. Questions arose organically. Was Blueface signaling a rejection of brand-safe boundaries? Was he asserting his freedom within the ecosystem of influence? Or was he leaning into the narrative that had been constructed around him? Digital reputation isn't just about action, it's about perception. For streamers, missteps can threaten partnerships and audience trust. For rappers, unpredictability is currency but with real-world consequences. The intersection of these two approaches created a complex tension that was fascinating to analyze. Weeks later, the exchange continued to dominate conversation. Adin Ross was asked directly during a Q&A whether the moment was personal. He replied succinctly, "Some things don't need explaining." That line reignited speculation. In digital culture, withholding explanation often holds more power than over-explaining. Silence, carefully managed, generates intrigue, fuels speculation, and allows narratives to grow organically. Meanwhile, Blueface continued posting music and studio content without acknowledgement. His silence reinforced control, emphasizing mystique and autonomy. Neither party escalated publicly. There were no insults, no social media rants, no confrontations. The absence of chaos itself suggested intent. Observers speculated whether this was a calculated tension, engineered to trend. While there's no proof, the moment exposed each personality's mastery over influence. They avoided direct hostility, preserved their image, and allowed ambiguity to fuel discussion. Fans split into three primary camps: those who saw the interaction as harmless banter, those who perceived subtle disrespect, and those who believed it was an engineered viral moment. The ambiguity allowed all three interpretations to survive, sustained by the audience's engagement. Within days, the moment had become a public study of digital influence, perception, and ecosystem dynamics. Industry voices quietly but meaningfully entered the conversation. Marketing professionals debated brand safety, podcasters analyzed reputational risk, analysts deconstructed the economics of virality. A viral tweet summarized the divide succinctly. Rappers monetize chaos, streamers monetize control. It explained why the tension resonated. It wasn't personal, it was structural. Blueface and Ross represented two different approaches to influence, each operating by its own rules. Yet no official feud was confirmed. Adin continued sponsored streams uninterrupted, while Blueface posted music and studio content without acknowledging the exchange. Fans shifted focus from the original comment to who handled the narrative better. In digital culture, perception often matters more than intent. Both won in their respective ecosystems, even as tension lingered. The absence of reconciliation, public discussion, or joint appearances created a meaningful gap. Distance in digital influence isn't neutral, it signals recalibration, boundary setting, and strategic positioning. The gap itself became content, a focal point for fans and analysts alike. Ultimately, the brand risk moment illustrates the complexity of influence today. Two high-profile personalities, each operating in distinct ecosystems with differing rules and stakes, collided. One thrives on disruption and unpredictability, the other on structure and stability. A single phrase, delivered quietly yet strategically, evolved into an expansive narrative about perception, hierarchy, and control. Every micro-expression, subtle tone shift, and strategic action became evidence, and the ecosystem responded in kind. Comments, reactions, edits, memes, and debates proliferated. What could have been a minor clip instead became a layered, ongoing lesson in digital power dynamics, audience psychology, and the economics of modern influence. And still, weeks later, the narrative continues to evolve. The question is no longer what happened, it's what happens next. Will they reconnect publicly? Will the gap widen? Or will the subtle recalibration observed in those early streams develop into something more permanent? In the world of online influence, moments like this don't vanish. They grow, they mutate, they become part of the broader story of a creator's identity, a platform's culture, and an audience's perception. Blueface and Adin Ross didn't just create content, they created a textbook case of digital tension, narrative ambiguity, and influence in motion. In the end, brand risk was never just a phrase. It was a pivot point, a lens, and a catalyst. And in the modern attention economy, such moments are far more powerful than any loud argument could ever be. The word that Adin Ross used, adjust, quickly gained significance. At first, it seemed casual, just a subtle response to a live donation question about whether he was cutting off Blueface. But the implications ran deeper. Adjustment implies change, recalibration, and perhaps permanent shifts in collaboration dynamics. It wasn't a rejection, nor was it conflict. It was an acknowledgement that something had shifted behind the scenes, even if nothing was being said publicly. Adding another layer, an old clip resurfaced of Blueface joking about platforms overreacting to minor issues. What had once been casual humor was now interpreted as prescience, evidence that the mindset leading to this collision had been present all along. When two confident personalities operate within overlapping spheres of influence, even minor friction can feel amplified. A pause, a glance, a single word. These subtleties can ripple across networks for days, accelerated by algorithmic amplification and collective analysis. By this point, the discussion had moved far beyond insults or explicit conflict. There were no meltdowns, no public confrontations. Everything relied on implication. A glance, a pause, a social media click. Analysis, speculation, and reinterpretation fueled the momentum.